Hi, this is Carson from ESFI, and I'm sitting here with Mao's VortiX. VortiX, we'll start off right off the bat. WCS Season 3, you were the only non-Korean in the tournament. Can you tell us what that's been like competing in a tournament where you haven't really had not a lot of people to talk to, but just a bit of a divide between you and the other players, let's say?
Yeah, well, after all, when you go to a tournament, you must focus on the tournament and playing your best and so on. It would have been great if there had been some other foreigner here.
Right.
Like, for example, Targa and Nercho were really close to making it. It would have been good, but I mean, it's not like a big problem to me or something. I just came here to play my best and not care about other stuff.
When the Korean players come to tournaments, they usually travel in a really large group, such as this time. Do you ever converse with them, or do they kind of just stay in their own little pockets, would you say?
Well, I converse with them less than what you would do with any other European or American or something, but I think that they are being involved in the foreign community a bit,
okay.
And I think they are opening themselves more to the Europeans and so on. So yeah, I kind of talked with some of them a bit, but yeah. It's not the same as if they were Europeans or Americans, of course, but
right.
Yeah, I think it was good.
Do you ever get around to discussing Warcraft 3 with them? I know you were a Warcraft 3 player before, played Undead. You were one of the best Undead players towards the end of the game. Do you ever get to talk to them about previous games and whatnot?
No,
No,
I didn't talk with them at all about that.
No? Okay. Well, about Warcraft 3, you came from Warcraft 3 to StarCraft 2, and other people have made the switch as well. Like, we had players like DeMuslim, we had Grubby Moon before he retired. But you've actually been pretty successful so far. You've made it to WCS, you're the only non-Korean player, and you've represented the Warcraft 3 community really, really well. Was there anything that really helped you, other than the RTS mechanics, that switched over from Warcraft 3 to StarCraft 2?
I don't think that there was any of my Warcraft 3 play that I could apply in StarCraft 2 and so on. But I think that towards the end of Warcraft 3, I mean, I was pretty decent, I guess. I won't say I was the best.
Well, you're the best Undead player, that was for sure.
I was one of the best European players, I think, and I just didn't have the chance to show it. So when StarCraft 2 came out, I was like, okay, this is going to be my chance.
Okay.
So I will try very hard to be what I have not been able to be in Warcraft 3 despite my skill level. So I don't know, I just focused too much in getting better and better, and it turned out well, I guess.
Now, you come from a pretty esports-oriented family. Both your brothers also played gaming and competitively, especially Lucifron. Do you guys talk to each other, when you were going to switch from Warcraft 3 to StarCraft 2? Did you discuss that, amongst yourselves?
Yeah, I remember that when the beta was going to come out, we started talking if we should make the transition or not. He had played a bit of Brood War on the last months, and he was kind of inactive in Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
So he started to play the beta straight away. At the beginning, I wanted to stay in Warcraft 3, but then I realized that there was almost no future in the game. There were no more tournaments, so I didn't really like StarCraft 2 at the very beginning. But yeah, it was the obvious change, and the more I played, the more I started to like it.
Well, how has that transition been? Like you said, you didn't like it at first. What didn't you like about it back then that you have grown to like now?
Well, it was just like a whole new game. Realized I didn't play any Brood War at all.
Right.
So for me, it was okay, what is this game? This is I don't know, playing Age of Empires. It means nothing to me. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I didn't start from zero because I knew what it takes to be good in one game.
Right.
I knew some tactics in practice schedules and so on to be good. But it was a whole new game. And at the beginning I was it seems kind of random. You just make an army and you have one big fight and then you win or you lose. In Warcraft 3 it was kind of every single second mattered. The way you used every single one of your units, everything mattered. So that's what I didn't like about StarCraft 2 at the beginning.
How did you get used to that? Because like you said in Warcraft 3, every second mattered. Every unit would give your opponent experience, unless of course you lost it to a neutral camp. But in StarCraft, you can sacrifice a full army and resupply, and that doesn't really affect any experience. They're not going to gain an advantage like they would in Warcraft 3, let's say. How did you adjust to that?
Well, at the beginning it was kind of hard. Like I didn't understand that sometimes you have to lose some units just to make maybe some economical damage or whatever. It was kind of like in Warcraft 3, you couldn't lose units no matter what. You had to keep everything alive. At the beginning it was a bit weird, I guess. But I don't know, if I try to think about it right now, it's my whole mind thinks about StarCraft 2 now, so it's...
Okay. Well, what's it like practicing with your brothers? Does your third brother play StarCraft 2 as well?
He plays a bit, but he's like a mid-master or something, so...
It's still pretty good.
It's decent, yeah, but he hasn't played like, I guess, more than 500 games in the whole StarCraft 2, so...
Yeah. But practicing with Lucifron, do you do that a lot? Like, I know you've been asked this 100 times, but...
We don't practice that much, actually, but we like to discuss the strategies, try to see the flaws of each other in the play, what we do wrong, what we could do better. But we don't practice so much between ourselves, because I don't think that StarCraft 2 is a game where you can, like, practice a lot with one player, as everyone has his own style and so on.
Okay. So, like, when you prepare for a tournament such as this and he's not in attendance, do you two, like, spend a lot of time talking beforehand about, like, the different opponents that you might face and whatnot? Because I know you didn't know your group when you came here, so you couldn't prepare specifically for the Protosses in your group. But what about, in general, do you two talk about that before a tournament? Like, a kind of, almost like a boot camp?
No, not much. Like, if I know my opponent beforehand, then we will talk a bit about it, but in this case, as I didn't know who I was going to play, we didn't talk about any of the opponents or strategies or something.
Well, when you found out when you got to this event about what your group was, I saw you actually watching some Brood War VODs on the Thursday, I believe. Why were you watching those? Just for fun? Or?
I had been practicing for like maybe 3 hours, 2.5. So I don't know, I just opened Team Liquid, I just clicked on the first stream I saw, and it was Brood War 1. So,
okay.
Yeah, but, I never played Brood War, but I've been watching a bit lately just to see how it was, and it looks pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Well, did you know that Lucifer is actually streaming Warcraft 3 still? Do you watch any of that in your spare time, like between games?
No, because right now if I try to watch or even play Warcraft 3, it feels so slow. Like, okay. I can't watch for more than a minute because I'm like, dude, where's the action? What's happening here? So no, I haven't been following much Warcraft 3 since maybe 2 years ago when I played my last tournament, which was like a nation invitational tournament or something.
Yeah.
I played for Spain. I think it was end of 2011. Haven't seen or played anything since then.
If there were any players that didn't switch to Warcraft 3 that you would have liked to have seen, who would they be?
Lin switched actually. I think he played for like 3 months and he reached round of 8 in Code S.
Yeah.
I think if he would have kept playing, we could probably be talking about the best player in the world, because he was extremely talented. Like towards the end of Warcraft 3, I think he was the best. Like he won a BlizzCon, he made top 2 in ESWC, losing to Lucifron. I know he played really good, and I would really love to see him in Warcraft 3, in StarCraft 2. I mean.
Okay.
And as for Europe, I think pretty much everyone from Europe switched to StarCraft 2.
What about Creo? He retired Warcraft 3 a while.
He retired like in 2007 or something, so I don't know. I guess his hands are a bit slower now.
Well, Mad Frog switched for a little while. He wasn't too successful. Do you think that switching from Warcraft 3 to StarCraft 2 is harder for the Warcraft 3 players than it was the Brood War players?
Yeah, totally. Like, at the end, after you have been playing for maybe a year or so, you are already used to the game and so on.
Right.
But at the beginning, Warcraft 3 is so different to StarCraft 2. And Brood War is different to StarCraft 2, but in another way. You know, after all, it's very similar units, some similar strategies. The whole game is different, and I guess Brood War is much harder than StarCraft 2.
Okay.
Or that's what people say. But yeah, I think it's much easier to make the transition from Brood War than Warcraft 3.
Okay, just a couple more questions to wrap up. I just wanted to ask, a lot of people have been saying that the new Zerg units really don't get a lot of feature play in tournaments, and a lot of players end up staying around the lower tiers for quite a while. Can you talk to us a little bit about like your unit selection and what your process is in game to say, oh, I need to make this unit or I need to make this unit?
I think the new units from Zerg are The problem with them is that they are kind of, let's say, defensive oriented.
Okay.
Like both Vipers and Swarmhost they are meant to just help you camp all the game. Vipers can be used offensive too sometimes, but yeah, overall I think that's the problem. That Zerg race right now, as in Heart of the Swarm, is a race that must be played offensive, and then Swarmhost and Vipers are kind of hard to get into the game. Like for example, Swarmhost versus Terran, they have no use at all, and the Vipers are almost not used to.
Okay.
I think the main problem is also that it's not that they are so bad, but that the other new units from the other races, the Mothership Core, the Widowmine, they are much better and they fit much better the gameplay from the races.
Okay, so if you wanted to see some changes for the next version of the game, what would you like to see for Legacy of the Void? More aggressive units?
I guess that Zerg lacks like a, let's say, tier 1.5 unit. Like for example, roaches you can get them early on, like in 6-minute mark maybe,
right.
And then you can get new units until maybe minute 10 or 11, 12, where you get Hydras or Mutalisks.
Okay.
There should be like a unit that you can get maybe a bit earlier.
In between roaches,
like maybe just with lair and no extra building, something that you can get faster to stop certain teamings, or also to be offensive if you want to, because it's kind of like Protoss, for example, they have sentries and stalkers, and then the next minute they are getting immortals or Terrans, they can get medevacs or Widowmines pretty fast too. And with Zerg you are stuck on tier 1 units for like 5 or 6 minutes. I think I would like to see some unit on that tech.
Okay, well thank you for the interview, VortiX. This is Cameron Carson reporting for ESFI. You can check out more of our StarCraft 2 content on esfiworld.com. Thank you for watching.